Welcome to the Inside Track on Real Estate with the Dekker Team. I'm Ken Dekker.
And I'm Ryan Dekker.
And today we get to talk about
stats.
Stats! Yeah, some people don't like stats. Some people love them. Guess it depends on your personality. And yet, it's important to know what the market's doing, because one of the biggest jobs of a real estate agent is to interpret what the market's doing in particular areas and how that affects the pricing of a home. Because the idea of putting a home on for sale is not to have it up there to have a year anniversary. It's about getting it sold, right? So we got to know what's happening in the market. So let's look at freehold.
Okay.
Now this is for the last 30 days. Okay.
So it's just a quick of what's happened in the last 30 days.
That's right.
Okay.
So active listings, 6,063. And that is freehold. We're only talking about freehold right now. And we're not talking like 5-unit buildings or anything like that. We're not talking farmland or lots, just freehold homes. So that includes townhouses, semi-detached, bungalows, 2 stories, all that kind of stuff.
What about a condo?
No, this does not include condo. We're going to do that separately because it's really 2 markets. They're 2 different markets. Yeah. So of those 6,000 properties, 622 sold last month. So that means we've got, that's actually, by the way, a decrease of 23% over the same 30-day period in 2014. So significant change in that particular month, which is interesting because that totally went against the trend. Because the 30 days before that, sales were up. Inventory was down just a hair. And year to date, we're still up, and we'll show that in a second. So in the last 30 days, the average list price was $374, and the average sell price was $362. Now that's down 2.2% over the previous year.
So what you're saying is it doesn't mean that the price has actually dropped year over year. It just means that in this time period, it's lower than it was last year.
Because there could have been 1 or 2 less $1 million houses sell. When you're doing a smaller chunk, it's more difficult to give generalities on what the market's doing. The other thing is the market is different in each location and each small micro area. So what I've done is I've actually created some stats on, we'll look at Manotick, Orleans, Barrhaven, Canada, and see how, and also Mechanicsville, Westboro, see how those areas are all comparing out. So it'll be kind of fun.
That is fun.
All right.
Let's do it.
So the average in the last 30 days, people were getting 97% of asking price.
Okay.
By the way, the Dekker Team usually does better than that, but 97% is the board average, and 69 days on market on average. So a little over 2 months to get a house sold that's priced properly. Now bear in mind, 622 sold, but there was 6,000, so only 10% sold. So 90% didn't. And many of them may never sell if they don't adjust their price or their condition for the market. All right? So that being said, if you look at it that way, we've got about 10 months of inventory. But again, looking at just a month is a little tough. All right, so let's look at the last 12-month period.
So this is a full year now.
A full year.
Okay.
All right, there was 13,033 sold.
Wow.
In the last 12 months.
This is just freehold in Ottawa.
Yes. Okay. So that's actually an increase of 3.8% over the previous year, which was 12,560. So just under 500 more homes sold in the last 12 months as did in the previous 12. So that's excellent. And prices, Ottawa's stable, right? We're up how much? 1.6. I get to read the stats because I wrote them.
That's great. So in the last year, we've gone up 1.6%.
In average sale price. So we went from $368 to $374. Not a huge increase, but $4,000 or $5,000 is a nice little thing to. If I could put $4,000 or $5,000 in savings in my bank account every year, that's a nice tidy savings over a period of time, right? And that's only at 1.6. And if I had that same money in a bank, I probably wouldn't have made 1.6 either. right? So it's decent. And we look at 12-month period. If we looked at the inventory we have today of 6,000 and we sold 13,000 in 12 months, that gives us 5.6 months of inventory, which is still a buyer's market. The other thing we have to take in consideration this time of year is inventory is lower, but sales are also, like that's a 12-month sales. So that's over the periods where we have higher sales. And inventory is probably a couple thousand houses lower now than it typically would be in May or June. So right now it's 5.6, which I would say is still a buyer's market. Okay. Now there are exceptions to that. So let's look at Manotick. Manotick typically is a higher end location, and we're going to actually feature a couple properties in the Manotick area at the end of our show. 122 active, and there were only 107 sold in 12 months. So that is 13.7 months of inventory.
Oh, that was for the whole year?
The whole year.
Whoa.
Yeah. Now, you'll notice the average price is significantly up. So this last 12-month period, $684,800, and the previous 12 months, it was $621,000. So what's interesting is the sales price is up 10%. Now, that doesn't mean a particular house went up 10%. Again, because there's only 107 sold, a couple $1 million houses throws this
equation out quick.
Significantly. But the number of sales, it's important to know, is down 8% over last year, over the previous year. So we went from 116 sales in the same market, 2013, 2014, to 107, 2014, 2015. Yeah, so that's a significant decrease.
And I mean, that could mean a lot of things, right? It could mean that right now there's less inexpensive properties on the market, which is why less have sold.
Could be.
Or it could mean that more people with lots of money are coming and buying up properties.
Yes.
So there's so many different things. When you just look at one stat, it's hard to get a clear picture.
It's difficult. The other thing that could be happening is we look at the sales stats for the entire market and they're up. This area is down. That could be more expensive homes are selling fewer and the lower price homes are selling more. And that's why the general market's up, but this particular area is down because it's typically, the average list price in Manotick is $727,000. That's average.
And what's the average in Ottawa?
The average in Ottawa, we just did it, was $385. So we're talking, what are we talking? $350,000 more.
It's almost another house.
Most families can't afford a $700,000 house. So you're narrowing down who can afford these houses. And that's on average, which means probably the smaller houses in Manotick are $400,000, and you got a lot in the $800 million, $1.5 million range, which there's a slim number of people that can afford a home like that. All right. So let's look at Westboro and Hintonburg.
Okay.
Up and coming area. I call it the new Glebe.
Okay.
Great shopping and boutiques and little restaurants and that sort of stuff on Richmond Road, Wellington Street. And interesting thing, only 23 active properties in that area. 23. But only 88 sold. But when you do the calculation, that's about 3 months of inventory right now. So that would tell me that that particular area, right at this moment, is pretty much still a balanced market, maybe trending to a seller's advantage. Okay, because only 23 active properties. Now, interesting enough, sales prices have gone up in that area. They were $420 a year ago. Now the average for the last 12 months has been $446. That's an increase of 6.2%. So it's bucking the trend of the overall market, right? It's increasing more. So that's interesting to see. And then let's compare it to Barrhaven. Barrhaven has sold more houses this year. By the way, less houses sold in Westboro this year than the year prior. But Barrhaven, there are 225 active, 1,127 have sold. And that's an increase of 4.1%. And there's only 2.4 months of inventory right now. Now, bear in mind, this is our lower inventory period, so it makes it skewed a little bit. But it's good for comparison's sake, area to area. Now, average sale price, $373 for the last 12 months, compared to $367 12 months previous. So that's a 1.5% increase, right on
mark.
Right on the mark, right? So Barrhaven's a growth area. Orleans is a growth area, so let's go east.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. More product in Orleans, 357 active properties, but also more sold. 1432 were sold. That's up 10% over last year.
Wow.
It's a big change. Last year, 1,296 were sold in the 12 months. And we've got about 3 months of inventory.
Again, around a balanced market.
Yeah. And interesting enough, price is very close to Barrhaven. $371 average sale price. And the previous 12 months, it was $367. That's an increase of 1.2. So it used to be Orleans was a fair bit less expensive than Barrhaven. And people would go there to get a little lower price house. But they seem to have balanced out pretty close. Like the average sale price is within $1,500.
Now, are there more single detached homes in Orleans? Is that what maybe the trend? And there's more.
I think you will find. Yeah, they might be building a few more stacked condos and that sort of thing in Barrhaven than they are in Orleans, right at the moment. But typically, they're going to be very similar. Similar builders build in Orleans, build in Barrhaven, build in Canada. So you're getting the same kind of tract housing, a certain number of townhouses, certain number of semis, certain number of 2 stories and bungalows. So I think they'd be fairly close that way.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Canada, another similar story. 1626 sold compared to, where's my stat? 1521 sold the 12 months previous. So that's a 6.9% increase in sales. And prices are up 0.8%. So not a huge gain.
Not a huge gain, but it's still a positive increase.
Yes, and what's interesting is the average sale price in Canada is higher.
Okay.
Slightly. $390. $390. So we're talking $18,000 difference in price on average. So maybe Canada has more bigger houses, but typically if you're moving to Canada, you're going to pay a little more than you would if you're buying in Orleans, it looks like. So interesting. How's that? Does that sum up the freehold?
Market. So I have a few statements to make.
Okay.
And that is, if you haven't been watching the trends and you're buying multiple properties. So that's not for everyone watching this show. But I have lots of clients that buy multiple properties and they buy them year over year over year. And when they're doing that, sometimes they fall into the trap of not realizing that the market has shifted. And so they think, well, I should be able to get the exact same house I got last year for the exact same price. And if I'm not getting it for the exact same price, then I'm not getting a good deal.
Right, and that's not necessarily true.
And that's not necessarily true because things do shift.
Yeah, and with real estate, we hope they shift upward.
We do. And, and so that's important to stay on track of is when you go to buy your next property, where has the market gone in my area? Has it gone up? Has it gone down? It's not just, this is a great property, it's like the last one, let's get it.
Right. And if you're just joining us on the Inside Track on Real Estate with the Dekker Team, you're listening to Ryan Dekker and Ken Dekker, and we are talking about the market and the stats of what's happening in the Ottawa area. And now we're going to move on to condominiums. Condominiums is like another story.
It's a whole other world.
Not quite as rosy. So, let's talk about it. 1749 active properties. So a lot less than the freeholds, right, compared to 6,000. 1749. There were 118 sold in the last month compared to 178 the previous month. That's a 33% decrease in sales.
And that's just
in
the
last
30
30 days
snapshot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So Who knows what's going on this last 30 days, because the freeholds were down too, but year-to-date they were up. And we'll see what the year-to-date stats are on the condos as well. So average price $280 compared to $264. So that's actually an increase of quite a bit in condos. But for 30 days, it's difficult to compare average sales. But 72 days on market on average are the ones that sold. And again, if 118 sold and there were 1,749 for sale, what percentage is that? That's probably about 7 or 8% of the condos for sale sold in a 30-day period. That means you got to price it right, or it's not going. All right.
It means you could be holding it for a year.
Right. So for the last 12 months, 2,600 homes sold, condos sold.
Okay.
That's down 2.8% compared to the 2,678 sold the previous 12-month period. So not a huge decrease in sales. And prices were down the same amount, 2.8%. So the average sale price was $259 compared to $262, so $3,000. Not a huge amount.
But it can make a difference if you're only 5% down or something.
Yes.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, you could lose some equity. So in real estate, it's good that you stay in long period because your mortgage has been paid down, so you're increasing your equity. And then...
Well, and this isn't the trend that we've seen over the long run.
No, it's just recently, the last few years, because I think they've overbuilt the condominium market.
They also made them really expensive.
Yes, they did. The new ones they're building, $400, $450 a square foot. So to buy a 500-600 square foot place, you're like $250, some $300 downtown, and for $300 you can go buy a nice townhouse. Now you don't have the same location, same lifestyle, but you're getting
much
bigger place and a garage and a place to store things and whatever. So, yeah, and then in-ground parking too is like $35,000-$40,000. So that throws the prices up on those units. So some people are saying to me, "Are we in a bubble?"
So are we in a bubble, Ken?
I don't believe we are.
Okay, why?
Why? Well, for a couple things. First of all, if I compare Ottawa prices to like Toronto, Vancouver, the major centers, we are still more affordable in Ottawa. The second thing is Ottawa is ranked usually 1 or 2 top cities in Canada to live in. And bear in mind, the reason I talk about these stats is as people move into an area, as the growth in population, creates demand for housing. That's what causes prices to rise. If the population is going down, there'll be too much housing and prices will fall. Right? Like we look at Windsor, for instance. Prices kept falling because people couldn't get jobs, so they moved out of the city. Now suddenly prices are dropping because the population is dropping. Ottawa, I don't see that happening. It's a government city. It's got clean industry. Ottawa actually is the highest ranking education per capita in Canada. So we have more PhDs, more doctors, more people with degrees per capita than any other city in Canada. So we're an educated city, which tends to mean you're going to have more white collar, more higher incomes. And the next thing is Canada has been ranked 1, 2 in the last several years for countries to live in. So immigration is coming into Canada. So that's increasing population.
And I just did a traveling expedition around the world, and we got to spend some quality time in China.
Okay.
And it doesn't necessarily matter living conditions, but what matters more is their belief in living conditions. And Canada, as far as I could tell, was seen as a very nice place to live. Even when I ran into other foreigners from other countries, they're like, "You live in Canada? Oh, it must be beautiful there." Like the onlook of Canada is still wonderful.
Yes, it is. That's why we're ranked. Like we used to be ranked in the top 5, and now we've been ranking since the world recession. We've been ranking 1, 2 as places to live, both for economy, safety, beauty, cleanliness, the whole gamut. We have it all. Culture. And so a lot of immigration will cause our
prices to go up.
prices to keep
And
steady.
people tend to stay here a long time.
Yes, they do. I moved to Ottawa close to 33 years ago, and it kind of stuck. Okay, so let's say worst case scenario, because people are going, well, if we are in a bubble, prices might fall.
Okay, let's talk about
Now, really, when you're talking about prices, you also got to talk about affordability, because most people don't pay cash for a house. They're getting
Very
a
few,
mortgage,
yeah.
and they're making a mortgage payment instead of making a rental payment. So it's the affordability of that mortgage has a big factor on pricing. So let's look at history. Since 1957, the prices in Ottawa have decreased 5 years. 5 different years, prices went down. Every other year, they've gone up.
And that's 62, 63,
Yeah.
94, 95, and 96.
Yeah. Do you know what caused those?
Tell me.
Well, 1962, I was born, so I think I caused that one.
Okay.
And then
Probably a good reason.
1994, prices went down for 3 years. I got my real estate license in 1994, so I think it caused that too. Is that being responsible?
I guess. Or a victim.
Or a victim? I'm not sure.
Not sure where you're going with that one. But
Well, you see, you can be a victim of the market, or you can be proactive to the market and make wise decisions, right? You can't change the market, but you can react in an appropriate way. So let's look. Let's say we take, for ease of numbers, a $400,000 house.
Okay.
All right? And right now, interest rates are fairly low.
But wait, first off, what is the worst it ever went down in those 5 years? Only 5 years.
Oh,
What is the worst it ever went down?
it was less than, it was about 4%.
That was the worst.
The worst year.
The worst ever.
Yes.
And we've had
And so
increases.
that 3 years where it went down 4%, 2%, and like 1%. So it went down about 9% over 3 years.
And we've seen years where it's gone up 12%, 7%, 6%,
16%.
consistently.
Yes.
And so 9% over 3 years may sound bad, but when you're in it for the long haul, it's like nothing.
Well, and it was bad at the time. It felt bad, right? People
course.
were, because if the market's going up, you can lead the market by pricing your house slightly over market, and the market will catch up to you over time. But if you price it above market and the market's creeping down, what happens is after 60 days, 90 days, people go, oh, I better adjust my price, and they go down, but the market's fallen out from underneath them. And then 60, 90 days, they go, oh, it's still not sold, I got to drop it again. And they're chasing the market down. So in a decreasing market, you actually have to lead the market by pricing below what the last one sold at. And yours will sell very quickly and probably multiple offers and get near the market,
where it
right?
should be.
Yeah. So back to this example. It's important to know that in the last 10 years, kind of the highest interest rate we've seen in 10 years is 5.2%. The lowest was about 2.3% for 5-year money.
Oh, that's low.
Yeah, that's very low. And prior to that, we were averaging more around 7-8% average. So the last 10 years, it's been extremely low interest rates. Okay, so we've been really fortunate. Now, $400,000 home with 5% down, that's $20,000 down, means I get a mortgage for $380,000. All right? At 2.6%, my payment is $1,721. Okay? And after 5 years, my balance is $322,000. Got that locked in?
Got that locked in.
Okay. So now,
for a similar place, rent is going to be slightly higher than this payment.
yeah, your rent on a $400,000 house is probably going to be $1,900.
In my experience, it'd be closer to 2 or 21.
2,000? Okay.
Yeah.
Depends if it's a 4-bedroom and it's nice. But yeah. So now let's say, same scenario, except market's fallen 10%. That's a big drop in Ottawa.
That is a big
10%
drop.
is a crazy drop. So it drops 10%. So now you buy that same house, it's $360,000. We put 5% down, so it's $18,000.
Yep.
So we saved $2,000 technically in the amount of money we need as a down payment. But here's the catch. Our mortgage is $342,000, But now at 5% interest rate, because interest rates have gone up, that's part of what caused the market to go down. Our payment is $19.89. So it's actually, our payment's gone up $260 a month. So the price of the house went down $40,000, but our payment went up $260 a month. Mm-hmm. So that $360 house is less affordable than the $400 house was. Mm-hmm. Okay? Now here's something interesting. The balance we owe is $302, so we owe a little less money. But what's interesting is we paid an extra $16,000 in interest in that 5-year period. Mm-hmm. So we're right back, really, if you add that back to the 302, that's 318, we're almost back to the 322 balance on the other one.
So what you're saying is, if I was to wait for the market to drop 10%, I'd be better off to buy today and lock in for 5 years.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. It'll cost you less over the long haul, because that's only 5 years, and that's a 25-year amortization.
And so if interest rates do go up, you're still better off to buy today, as long as you're buying for the long term.
Absolutely.
Now,
absolutely.
If you do buy today and it drops, 40 grand or whatever, that's sad.
Yes.
And because of when you bought it, over the long run.
So now I'm going to talk about 2 great properties that for low interest rates really make these houses affordable.
Let me hear about that.
One is at 889. It's on Knights Drive in Rideau Forest. Beautifully, totally renovated property. House. Interior was basically gutted and redone. It's gorgeous. And beautiful treed lot. Couple acres. Really, really nice. The other one is on Blossom Trail. It's $950,000. And that is a beautiful, relatively new property, in-ground pool, again on a larger lot, about an acre, and gorgeous. So if you're looking for a luxury home, the Dekker Team's got you covered. And if you're looking for something that's affordable, a starter, we love helping first-time buyers as well. So we cover the gamut. Never be afraid to call the Dekker Team and just ask a question, because there are no bad questions, right?
Just bad questions unasked.
Yeah, bad questions that weren't asked. That's the only bad question, is the one that's not asked. So we'd love to help you in any way we can. Give us a call about any of your real estate needs at 613-860-4663. That's 613-860-4663. And we'd love to connect to you very soon. Bye for now.
Bye for now.